One of the first videos I did for this YouTube channel was a review of a couple of books that I listened to on audiobook while I was driving my way across America back in March. And one of those books was The Push by Tommy Caldwell. And that is the story of Tommy's relentless pursuit of his dream of finding a way to climb the Dawn Wall, which is a section of El Capitan in Yosemite National Park in America. And it's the section where the dawn light hits first. And he managed to do that with his partner, Kevin Jorgeson. And it's a really, really interesting book. It's really about how if you want your dreams to come true, they can, but you actually have to really work on them. And I don't really care much about rock climbing, to be totally honest, but I found it to be a really interesting book. Anyway, you can watch that video later if you want to. But they recently came to Sydney. Kevin and Tommy came, and they held an event at the State Theatre in Sydney. And I don't really know what it was going to be, but I thought I really liked the book, and the Dawn Wall movie was really incredible. And I'd only really seen that on my laptop. And so I bought tickets and I went along, and my God, I'm so glad I went. It was so interesting. The State Theatre is really beautiful. I don't know that I've ever been there. I certainly haven't watched a movie there before.
So how did last night go? Did you do the loop around?
Well, a little harder than I thought it was going to be, honestly, but I totally worked it out.
But it was a really interesting event. So they arrived, and you got some behind the scenes footage that's not included in the movie, and you got a little bit more of a look into Tommy and Kevin's relationships with each other and with their families and their partners, and about how much it kind of cost them to get this dream achieved. And it was really interesting to see how even years later, how fired up they were about talking about this event. And like, for example, Kevin is still working all over El Capitan looking for new routes. He's clearly been inspired by this event in his life and is pursuing new avenues to find the same experience and the same joy again. And it was just really, really interesting. The thing that blew me away most was seeing this movie on a big screen. Now, I really liked Free Solo, which is Alex Honnold's story of climbing El Capitan with no ropes. So basically you fall, you die. And that movie got so much publicity, and it got so much steam behind it, and it even won an Oscar. And it was released at pretty much the same time as the Dawn Wall, and I was kind of like, oh, I wonder if they did that deliberately, or I wonder if that affects your friendship in any way if you both release movies at the same time. But the really interesting thing is, I think that Dawn Wall is totally the better story. It's got a much better emotional and human capacity. The struggle is much better. Free Solo is an unusual guy who doesn't process fear in the same way, who is brilliant, absolutely brilliant at what he does. Climbing a wall with no ropes, it's just kind of insane. But without his girlfriend being in the story and her being understandably freaked out that he might die, it just would have been an insane story, but a story of someone climbing a wall. But spoilers, in the Dawn Wall, in Tommy Caldwell's life, he got taken captive in Kyrgyzstan. He had to push his captor off a cliff to be able to escape. He chopped off at least half his index finger, which is a major way that you actually grip onto the wall. And he had to retrain his finger to desensitize it and retrain his entire body. And he became a better climber after losing a finger. He, obviously went through this hugely traumatic event, which then affected his relationship with his partner, who he then married, who the relationship then exploded, and then he got married again. And it's just such an interesting story. And he was this guy alone on the wall trying to find a route because he believed it could be done, because he wanted it to be done, and because he had demons to silence. And Kevin comes along and helps him on this journey, and then you get Kevin's story, where Kevin is not usually that kind of climber, and he gets stuck at a certain point, and the question becomes, does Tommy wait for him, or does he continue up the wall because he's found a way through, and does he complete this task alone, or does he wait for his friend? And it's such an interesting story, and I think the trouble is where it fell apart is that it took so long for them to edit that footage, and that I think a layperson like myself who doesn't climb doesn't understand the difficulty grading of the climb, and so therefore you kind of go, well, free solo is way more hardcore. The guy's climbing with no ropes, and if he falls, he dies. And okay, that's true, but the consequences are a lot higher. But like the difficulty level of the climb is totally different. Don't get me wrong, I'd be completely screwed doing either. I would have no chance. But I mean, Alex Honnold wasn't climbing the Dawn Wall with no ropes. Like, you just weren't. I'm not trying to say that that makes Alex Honnold's achievements any less amazing and mind-blowing. But Dawn Wall is the better movie. Dawn Wall is 100% the better movie. And when you see it, when I saw it on this big screen, I saw things that I didn't see the first time, and it was great to watch it again. I didn't think it was going to be, but I really enjoyed watching it a second time, and you really see how tiny these things are that they're holding on to. There was one section where, to make this climb, he had to balance himself basically on his big toe on something about that big, and he had to hold on with one thumb, and the thing he was holding onto with one thumb didn't even cover half the width of his thumb. Like, that's how tiny these little bits are that he's holding onto. I mean, it was just insane. I mean, there's no way you do that without a rope. There's just no way. And then the other reason that Dawn Wall, I think, fell down is they didn't have the marketing power. So Free Solo is obviously, like, the climb part is filmed once. You only climb that wall once with no rope, and they get it all in one day. So there's a lot of the story about how are we going to do this, how are we going to capture Alex's climb without getting in his way. But it was a National Geographic movie, so they had much more backing, and I give it to them. The photography, the cinematography is better, but the story is better in the Dawn Wall. But that being said, I mean, I know I've totally spoiled both movies for you now, but I would really recommend that even if you are not a rock climber, even if you don't care about rock climbing, these movies are incredible. And if you can watch them on a big screen, watch them on a big screen. But if you can't, watch them on a little screen, because it is incredible and it is insane what these people are capable of. And it makes you realize that you are capable of so much more than you ever realized if you just work hard enough, and if you can identify something that you want enough, but you have to want it ferociously. That is the difference between a dream being a dream and it coming true. And they're just really interesting movies, but the Dawn Wall is better.
When we started climbing the Dawn Wall years ago, I don't think we thought anybody would be interested in this climb at all. So this has been kind of a trip.
Yeah.
And also, I want to personally thank Kevin for starting on this journey with me now. How long has it been? Like
10 years?
Yeah, 10 years ago now.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm a pebble wrestler. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.